Ken Jennings has revealed that he thought Pat Sajak is more entertaining as a host than Alex Trebek. The Jeopardy! Host was a recent guest on Justin Long's Life is Short podcast. Ken, 49, discussed with the Hollywood actor about his hosting duties, his time as a contestant, and Alex Trebek. At the beginning of their conversation, Justin, 45, asked about the interview segments that typically occur after the first commercial break. Justin brought up Wheel of Fortune host, Pat Sajak, and how brilliant he was at interviewing contestants, to which Ken agreed. The TV personality responded, "Alex was such a genius at hosting Jeopardy! You really cannot do better than that. But as a kid I was like, Pat's more fun, Pat jokes around with the three people. I think there's a little bit of that in my P&A. I'm a little more of a Pat Sajak where I'm like, if I say one more thing please end it with a joke. Whereas Alex was very much like, okay, helium balloons alright. How about you? I want to make it less painful, the interviews, than it was for me as a viewer." Alex died in November 2020 after a 20-month battle with stage 4 pancreatic cancer. He hosted the popular game show for 37 years. His last day in the studio was just 10 days before he died. Ken eventually took over as host of Jeopardy! In 2021. Honoring Alex. On November 1st, the family of Alex revealed they created a pancreatic cancer fund in the former host's name. Alex's wife Jean Kervin Trebek, daughter Emily Trebek, and Ken spoke on his legacy in a new video launching the Alex Trebek Fund. Stand Up to Cancer has partnered with the late Jeopardy! Host's family for the Alex Trebek Fund, Deadline announced. The Alex Trebek Fund will help with critical research in treating the deadly disease. The charity already has over $1 million in contributions, the outlet stated, and it was announced the week of the 3rd anniversary of his death. Ken described how Alex made a positive impact on him growing up in a heartfelt clip paired with the launch. He said, "Jeopardy! Was always big for me as a kid, so Alex was a big inspiration for me. He created this place, this space where it was safe to be a smart person. He was so good at it, so graceful, so perfect for the role, that we all thought the job was easy, and it's not. Hosting Jeopardy! Is incredibly hard." In the following clip, Jean explained, "When Alex was diagnosed, we never thought in a million years it was stage 4 pancreatic cancer. I thought it would be a great idea to set up this fund at Stand Up to Cancer, and since he was all about the right answer, I think it's very fitting this fund was established in his name. Hopefully, it will benefit Thousan." Then, Emily shared, "I hope that all of the fans and community of Jeopardy! Really can lean in and show support for this. I think they showed so much support for my dad when he was going through his cancer treatments. I hope that they stand up with this great organization." More about Ken. Ken Wayne Jennings III was born on May 23, 1974, in Edmonds, Washington, a suburb of Seattle. As a kid, he spent a lot of time overseas in South Korea and Singapore as his father was a lawyer who traveled a lot. Once he returned to the United States, Ken first attended the University of Washington but later transferred to Brigham Young University in 1996 and studied English and computer science. There, he met his future wife, Mindy Bohm. He is famously known for holding the record for the highest average number of correct responses per game in Jeopardy! History. During his 75th game in the series, Ken lost but earned nearly $5 million in winnings while competing. Prior to his guest hosting role, Ken returned to the franchise in 2020 and appeared on Jeopardy! The greatest of all time alongside Brad Rutter and James Holzhauer. Before starring on the U.S. game show, Ken worked as a software engineer. Ken Jennings had always been a student of the game, a Jeopardy! Legend who had earned his place in the pantheon of quiz show greats. But one day, during an intimate interview on a popular podcast, Ken revealed a surprising opinion that sent shockwaves through the world of game show enthusiasts. "I know this might sound blasphemous to some," Ken began, a slight grin on his face as he leaned into the microphone, "but I've always thought Pat Sajak is just more fun as a host than Alex Trebek." The host of the podcast, visibly taken aback, chuckled nervously. "More fun? You mean the same Pat Sajak from Wheel of Fortune?" Against the legendary Alex Trebek? Ken nodded, his expression contemplative. Don't get me wrong, Alex was an icon, a mentor to me, and one of the sharpest minds I've ever had the pleasure of knowing. But Pat, he brings this lightheartedness to the game show environment that I think sometimes gets overlooked. As the interview continued, Ken elaborated on his experiences working closely with both men. Alex had this commanding presence, he was always in control, always dignified. He was like the stern teacher you always wanted to impress. Pat, on the other hand, feels like the fun uncle who sneaks you candy when your parents aren't looking. Ken's insight brought a new dimension to the ongoing debate in game show circles. Who was the better host? Was it Alex Trebek, with his air of intellectualism and authority, or Pat Sajak, with his approachable charm and wittiness? I've spent a lot of time thinking about what makes a good game show host, Ken continued, leaning back in his chair. There's the knowledge, the poise, the timing, all things Alex had in spades. But what Pat has, and I think it's just as valuable, is this ability to make everyone feel at ease. He's quick with a joke, he doesn't take himself too seriously, and I think that's what's made Wheel of Fortune such a beloved show for so long. Ken's words resonated with many listeners, who took to social media to share their thoughts. Some fans agreed with Ken, appreciating Pat's playful demeanor and lighthearted banter. Others, however, stood by Alex Trebek, arguing that his gravitas and intellect were what made Jeopardy the show it is today. As the debate raged on, Ken reflected on his own journey from contestant to host. Hosting Jeopardy is a huge honor and a tremendous responsibility, he said. I often think about how Alex would approach certain situations, how he'd handle a tricky clue or an unexpected moment. But I also think about how Pat would keep things fun and loose, even when the stakes are high. There's a balance to strike, and it's something I'm constantly learning. Ken admitted that he sometimes envied Pat's ability to connect with his audience so effortlessly. Pat's been doing this for so long, and yet he still seems to genuinely enjoy it. He's got this twinkle in his eye, like he's in on a joke that we all get to share. I think that's something really special. The discussion then turned to the differences in the shows themselves. Jeopardy is all about knowledge and strategy, Ken explained. It's intense, and that intensity was reflected in Alex's style. Wheel of Fortune, though, it's more of a game for the whole family. It's not just about solving the puzzle, it's about having fun along the way. And Pat embodies that spirit perfectly.